Watch this.
Longer days and shorter debates, even shorter tempers. It's kind of how Idaho lawmakers handle this time of year every year, rushing through what's left to consider and reconsider so they can go home. A lot of what's left on the agendas has to do with budgets, and it wouldn't be an end-of-session scramble without some drama in JFAC. What if we told you this winter has been a lot like the historic season of 2017, the one we like to call Snowmageddon? Maybe not down here in the Treasure Valley, but where it matters most, in the mountains.
The question for the Senate then, Senators, is yes, will mean an override. No, will sustain the governor's veto.
You know, it's always amazing to see how quickly the state legislature can work through stuff when they really want to. Like for the first 10 weeks or so of the session, bills seem to take it one step at a time, which usually takes at least one day at a time. But now for the last few days, which is now nearly 90 into this session, you have to keep your head on a swivel. One of those bills that can give, well, one whiplash, the Medical Freedom Act. That's the bill trying to keep people from being forced to take any medical preventions they don't want to take. Passed by both chambers, only to be vetoed by the governor. And then there was a will they or won't they watch to see if they try to override that veto this week. Then instead, they introduced two more bills, similar bills. And we watch to see which one of those is going to race through the chambers fastest, only to have that veto bill, or that veto vote, I should say, come up today after all. And it didn't go so well.
Roll call shows 20 aye, 14 nay, 1 absent and excused, less than 2/3 having concurred, the veto is sustained.
Okay, so Plan A did not work. They went right into Plan B right there and took up Senator Dan Foreman's new medical freedom bill on the Senate floor. That would be Senate Bill 1210. Changed some words to it with regard to daycare facilities. And ultimately, though, this one still has the same message.
There's no bargaining over our freedom. I want to make that point crystal clear. This bill is in defense of the God-given freedoms that you inherited when you were born in this great country.
Or maybe you just became a citizen in this country, too. That's an option. The Senate's second attempt at a medical freedom bill, passed 22-13, is now in the hands of the House. The House version, that'd be House Bill 472, it has also made its way to the other side. So we're going to see which one wins out. Again, see which one meets in the middle. Meanwhile, the ivermectin bill, that one, that's flown through the State House faster than horse dewormer flew off the shelves during the pandemic. It came out of committee just yesterday and passed overwhelmingly through the Senate this morning, and then flew through the House this afternoon. Senate Bill 1211 would make ivermectin available in Idaho over the counter without a prescription. Right now, you need a doctor to prescribe the anti-parasite medicine, which is FDA approved to treat parasitic infections in humans. You know, think worms on the inside or topically for head lice or rosacea. But it still has yet to be approved for use for things like COVID, which is the only reason a lot of us even know about ivermectin. Before that, it was mostly known to farmers and ranchers to get rid of worms in livestock. And then some started promoting it as an alternative medicine for the coronavirus, despite never being proven it worked. And there were some studies done with it, but its effectiveness showed to be about the same with the control group who took a placebo, so not really much of a benefit. Still, here we are with Idaho lawmakers, none of which are doctors, by the way, touting ivermectin's seemingly endless benefits.
Does it work? Do doctors recommend it? Yes, yes. Was it used during the pandemic to treat COVID? Yes. You know, our Idaho's own Dr. Ryan Cole recommends this. Dr. Robert Malone. I could rattle off a bullet list, but I don't think I need to.
But you might want to, Senator Lenny, because I'm betting that list of reputable doctors you refer to is pretty short. I'm sure you noticed the air quotes that Senator Lenny used for the pandemic, so you can kind of see what side he's coming from. But you might want to expand that list, as I said, Senator Lenny, because both those doctors you mentioned, that'd be Dr. Ryan Cole and Dr. Robert Malone, they don't really have a decent track record when it comes to COVID or medicine in general. There's Dr. Robert Malone right here on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial back in January of 2022 during a demonstration against the COVID-19 vaccine. Dr. Malone's claims and suggestions during the pandemic have been discredited and denounced by medical professionals for not only being wrong, but also kind of dangerous. And there, standing right behind him, is Idaho's own Dr. Ryan Cole. As you can see on his right, your left, the clinical pathologist told us 4 months prior to that demonstration in D.C., ivermectin was certainly in his rotation. Do you know, ballpark or even a specific number, how many you prescribed with ivermectin?
Couple hundred.
Okay.
And 95% have been better in 24 to 48 hours.
It was that unrestricted practice with those prescriptions that got Dr. Cole's medical license in Washington restricted for 5 years for knowingly sharing misinformation about COVID and virtually prescribing ivermectin without examining patients and against medical practice standards. He now has to stick to just pathology in Washington. Was he disciplined in Idaho for the same thing? We don't know, because Idaho's Board of Medicine isn't allowed to say. Then came time to turn the debate on ivermectin to all the things ivermectin can do.
I have a story of a cattle rancher that I know. His partner got cancer, and he chose to treat her with the ivermectin that he uses for his cattle. He and her treated themselves, and she no longer has cancer. Now that's just hearsay.
It's just hearsay, almost as if you're just on a podcast and just saying stuff, except you're on the floor of the Idaho Senate. Does ivermectin cure cancer? No, it doesn't. Now, there have been some small studies done on mice and some research into how it works alongside other treatments for breast cancer, but there's been nothing to show it has successful results in humans because ivermectin is an anti-parasitic drug.
With ivermectin, what we're hearing about with a lot of the cancers is a lot of the cancers are now, they're finding is parasite driven. There's parasites. And they're finding that actually ivermectin is a huge help in those who have cancer.
Again, it's not. And also, cancer is not parasite driven. Some can be viral, but there's no evidence that they are manifested or made worse by parasites. Cancer is caused by genetic mutations, and that's how it spreads. Kind of like disinformation or conspiracy theories, right, Senator Zeiderveld?
The reason why there's a fight against this and why they didn't want to have this cure out even during COVID is because that it's a cure. And we all know that, there's only money if they can keep us sick. I myself, during COVID, we took ivermectin. I still, to this day, if I get a cold, I take ivermectin.
Is it difficult or not to get? It sounds like it's, well, pretty easy. But either way, the CDC says there's no scientific evidence or data that supports ivermectin is effective against the cold or the flu or even RSV. So here's the thing. In order for a drug to be available over the counter, it has to be approved for that by the FDA, and we all know that could take some time.
But Idahoans shouldn't have to wait for federal bureaucracy to catch up before they can make informed choices.
So the question is, aren't they the same people, though, who are worried about how quickly the COVID vaccine came to market? And now we don't want to wait for actual clinical studies to show if ivermectin is effective on anything like this, but we're just going to push this through because we asked, and Senator Kevin Cook brought up during debate today that there isn't a pharmacist or a doctor in Idaho that stepped forward and said, we want this to happen. And when we asked what the Idaho Board of Pharmacy thought about this bill, they sent us this, and they says, quote, this legislation did not originate with the Idaho Board of Pharmacy, and we do not have a position on it. That's what they said, end quote. Meanwhile, Senate Bill 1211 passed the Senate, as you heard there, 25-9. It passed the House 66-1. Next stop, the governor's office. Okay, so really the only thing lawmakers do need to do before they go home is set a balanced budget. And at the center of all of it, the budgeting committee, the Joint Finance and Appropriations Committee, that'd be JFAC. Leaders there have worked in recent years to kind of change the flows and how make that committee more efficient. Question is it working or is it basically a power grab, putting everybody in chaos? Depends on who you ask. Joe Paris, well, he did that.
It has some funds for
budget battles are the final hurdle to clear for Idaho lawmakers who appear very ready to wrap up the session. But there are varying descriptions on the final act.
All we need to see next is a bear and a unicycle coming out of the, I mean, it was a circus, right? Senate Minority Leader Melissa Wintrow sits on Idaho's powerful budgeting committee. She describes the process this year as frustrating. The number of budget bills that failed this year is probably a record.
She attributes that in part to new processes that the Joint Finance and Appropriations Committee have gone to in recent years. That includes how the Joint Committee votes, as a House and Senate body rather than one group vote, and how budgets are examined.
I don't think the process is really working, and we're seeing, a once well-respected, well-reasoned committee now just come unglued.
We're doing the work, we're doing the job, and that's what taxpayers expect of us, is to do our duty and guard their money.
Representative Wendy Horman is co-chair of JFAC. She believes critics continue to miss the mark with their commentary.
Sure, some people don't like how we vote. Sure, some people don't like the new process, but it worked. It worked to restrain new growth in spending, and we did the job. We set a balanced budget. Technically, that's the only thing we have to do when we come here.
Horman points to final results, pending final approval from all lawmakers in the final days.
We ended up with 6.7% budget growth on the general fund, but 5% of that was purely for the maintenance. So what we funded last year plus salaries and benefits. So technically it's only a 1.7% increase in new spending on the general fund this year. That's nothing short of a miracle, in my opinion.
We are an efficient government, bare bones, and we take pride in that already, but now we've cinched the belt so tight we can't even find our belly button, quite frankly.
A shared frustration across the aisle, a segment of lawmakers that appear to vote no on budgets no matter what.
They certainly do. I have evidence of that in the vote counts on the budgets. And so, yeah, sometimes that is frustrating when you're in here doing exactly what they've asked. Well, most people have asked. Some people want bigger budgets, but not the majority. And then they won't support when we make that effort because it's not zero.
And there's a solid group that just votes no. Doesn't matter. No. And I just don't think that's the appropriate way to govern.
Looking ahead to next year, there is consensus that JFAC processes will be talked about.
Let's follow some rules. Let's have predictability and transparency in our government. And let's do what's best for Idahoans and not our own individualistic stances and our party ideology.
So we'll have that conversation over the summer, as we have had the last 3 summers. So we're always iterating, always trying to improve.
And a very short time ago, just in the last few minutes on the Senate floor, Brian, it was made clear that Idaho lawmakers are looking to effectively wrap up their business tomorrow.
Okay.
It remains to be seen if they would want to wait for 4 or 5 days to make sure the governor doesn't veto anything.
Right.
But essentially, it looks like we're in the final phase.
It always made, like this whole idea with this ivermectin bill, it went from committee yesterday to 2 chambers today and on the way to the governor's office. This is like rapid fire stuff. I mean, it's normal for this time of year, but it doesn't have to be.
Yeah, that's true. But, in terms of getting things done and going home, that's one way to do it.
Yeah, all right. Thanks, Joe. Idaho's future doctors will have more options when it comes to where they go to medical school. As for options for bathrooms and locker rooms, well, those just became even more legally limited. Abby Wilt covers it all in today's 411.
Governor Brad Little signed the new WWAMI bill into law. Instead of opting out of the WWAMI program altogether, like the previous version of the bill, House Bill 368 gradually shifts 30 of its 40 seats to a non-WWAMI program over time. WWAMI is a 5-state partnership between Washington, Wyoming, Alaska, Montana, and Idaho, with University of Washington being the medical school for the 4th states without one. The bill had an emergency clause, so the law goes into effect immediately. The governor also signed House Bill 264, which takes Idaho's 2023 transgender bathroom law, which was just ruled to be enforceable last month, and expands it beyond public schools to include colleges, universities, women's shelters, and women's prisons. All of those places now need to designate multi-occupancy bathrooms, changing rooms, and sleeping areas as male or female based on biological differences. The law goes into effect on July 1st. In non-legislative news, mountain bikers rejoice. A new 2-mile downhill mountain biking trail is going in just above Holes Gulch in the Boise foothills. The Sideshow Trail will connect Corals Trail to Bob's Trail and the 8th Street connection. The city of Boise says construction is expected to begin in mid-April. And that's the 411 on the 208. I'm Abby Wilt.
Snowpack is the lifeblood of the West.
Bet it is. Farmers, firefighters, homeowners, recreationalists. What do all these people have in common? Well, it's the water. And in order to get an idea how much they're going to have to use in the summer and into the fall, you need to know how much snow we have in the winter, or in this case in the spring, because that will all melt into our rivers and reservoirs. And knowing how much snow, that's the job of the Natural Resources Conservation Service, who goes out every month to measure the snowpack at more than 100 spots across the state. Well, this month, Hunter Funk followed along.
Take a drive a few miles outside of Idaho City. Strap on those snowshoes. Grab the snow puppy.
The snow puppy!
Climb up some snowbanks. And you'll find...
Welcome to the Morris Creek Snowtail Station.
Established in 1978.
And that is like a big snow bladder.
This is an automatic weather station measuring snowpack, precipitation, temperature, humidity, every hour on the hour.
So we're gonna wander up that way next.
So if the station tracks snowpack, why measure it manually?
We're part of a long history of people making these measurements once a month from December through May each year since 1934.
Having records from 1934 keeps things consistent.
Let's put that top piece back.
Helping researchers see similarities and changes in snowpack over the years. It also ensures the hourly automatic measurements are
Now I'm gonna put
correct.
this thing called a driving wrench on the top.
They do it with this stick.
So it's a snow tube that we stick into the snow.
Known as the federal sampler.
We'll get a core of snow through here, and yeah, 110 inches.
Invented in 1915 in Lake Tahoe.
And then we're gonna weigh it. That was pretty good.
And later picked up by Idaho 5 years later.
And the weight actually tells us how much water is in the snowpack. In Idaho, 75% of our water comes from the mountain snowpack, so it's a huge component of it.
A lot of people rely on these measurements.
Irrigators, users, landowners, homeowners, everybody wants to know, and we try to, more information the better.
It helps forecast when reservoirs should move water downstream.
Reservoir operators have to have this delicate balance between managing the amount of water that's coming down, we're saving as much possible for irrigation later in the summer when it's dry, but also releasing enough that we have safe rivers downstream.
While it hasn't felt like the area has had snow similar to the 2017 Snowmageddon, the data is showing otherwise.
But we have about 90 inches of snow, a little bit taller than I can reach, and we're about 36 inches of water content in the snowpack.
Only 2 inches less than 2017.
Weight divided by the depth of snow.
Which means it's an above average year.
We're just checking our numbers.
The data helps people plan.
It's very good, but always cautious optimism.
But now that it's measured, everyone's eyes are on the spring weather.
We'll see how that checks with the other one.
Yeah.
In hopes that the snow,
hopefully we got the snow,
melts slow.
We have an abundance of water, but it all depends on how it comes off. Everything looks great, but that can change in a month if we have a really hot May. So it's kind of a month to month, but as of right now, this moment, yes, everything is looking really great for a year. So.
And if we have a hot and rainy April and May, it's going to push the water out of the mountains, forcing the reservoirs to fill up fast, which means they have to quickly release the rest of the water downstream. Now, this can cause dangerous river conditions, and then irrigators will have to use the stored water sooner. So again, slow and steady kind of wins the race.
And it's kind of what we're seeing right now. I mean, you've seen the waters rise in the Boise River. It's up not quite to flood stage, but they got to get rid of it so they can make room in the reservoirs.
Yeah, you know, they were talking about flood stage for the Boise River is about 6,500. Right now we're sitting at 4,500. So we're getting there. It's definitely fast flowing. So be careful. Don't go in it. It's fast right now.
Still some low spots that are underwater, so be careful. Exactly. All right, thanks, Hunter.
All right, you heard Hunter mention it just now. Yes, we are above average as far as snowpack goes. These are the new numbers published on Monday everywhere on this map. I know the numbers are teeny tiny and hard to read, but the takeaway is that all of our basins in central and southern Idaho are at or well above average, with the exception still of the Birch, Medicine Lodge, Beaver, Camas Basin at 84% of normal. Otherwise, there is plenty of snow in the mountains. And as we talk about temperatures, the long-range forecast, the 3-month outlook from now for the next several months is that will trend about normal as far as temperatures go. So that is good news long term. If that pattern holds, that we should see a nice, slow and steady snow melt. However, as we look ahead at the mountain outlook for the next several days, we're going to land in the 50s by the end of the weekend. So we do have warmer weather coming our way. So in the short term, we are trending warmer than normal. And I don't know that we're going to add a whole lot more to our snowpack in the coming weeks. We are seeing some very light snow showers around Sun Valley right now. This is an identical outlook to what we were seeing 24 hours ago and 48 hours ago as we continue this unstable atmosphere. So few spot showers possible in the Boise area for the rest of your Thursday evening, but mostly clear outside of that shower activity. Temperatures hovering in the low 50s until sunset, then dipping into the upper 40s. Tomorrow morning, another cold one down below freezing early on your Friday, but chance of showers diminishes and temperatures warm over the weekend. We're up to 70 degrees in Boise by Sunday.
Hey, welcome back. Let's get to your comments today on this Thursday. This one, somebody was curious about Idaho legislators taking ivermectin like it's emergency. That explains so much, she says. More on the ivermectin bill. Thank you, Dr. Holmes, for your professional opinion on ivermectin. That's from Mike. Well, Mike, actually, I did consult with Dr. David Pate, who was a regular on our broadcast during the pandemic. He even wrote a book about it. And I was kind of walking through some of these things that were said. He pointed me in the right direction of where to look. And that's kind of what I did is I looked it up on the internet, much like Senator Dave Lent did during debate on the Senate floor today, and found out that ivermectin hasn't been approved for any of this stuff. But nobody seemed to care. Let them have their ivermectin. Less competition for real vaccines and treatment for my family, says Bob in Ada County. Meanwhile, Beckett in Twin Falls, ivermectin isn't killing the brain worms in our illustrious leaders. I like that. That's a good one. That's a good reference there. You know, we need to get this legislative session over quickly before we give the late night talk show hosts any more material. Come on, Idaho. We don't want to be in competition with Florida, says Greg. He's pointing out the fact that truck nuts made the Colbert show, or Corbett. Which show was it on this week? It was on Colbert. That's what it was, Stephen Colbert. It was on the Colbert show earlier this week, so we are making some national news. I defy you to prove where Idahoans added value, or the legislators did. We're going to get into a little more of that next week, possibly. We'll see you then.
Continue with us and watch free now on the KTVB Plus app, everywhere you stream.